Hi everyone, Visual FX tutorial here. Today I'm going to show you how to use the plugin for 3D Studio Max FUME FX. Well, FUME FX is a plugin, so it's not included in the program itself. And FUME FX simulates fluids dynamic and gaseous fluids in general. FUME FX is one of the best fluid simulator for 3D Studio Max. In fact, to create a FUME FX simulation, just go on create geometry and click FUME FX, then click again FUME FX and drag to create a grid. This grid will be the area of our simulation, the area where the fluid simulation happens. Well, if we go on the modify panel, we open the FUME FX user interface. We play with some settings, nothing will happen because we need a source to simulate our fluid. To create a source in FUME FX, you must go to helpers and go to FUME FX in the helpers menu. Okay, we have four object types: the simple source, the object source, the particle source, and the gravity vector. The sources creates a source where the fluids begin. The simple source is used for the less important fluid simulation, when we don't need geometry that must be linked with our simulation. The object source makes fluid begin from a shape, a three-dimensional shape, and the particle source makes the particles of the particle system you like. Every particles became a little voxel, a little part of the simulation. It's used, for example, into fire jets or something like that, some stuff like that. Well, today we are going to use the simple source. The gravity vector is used to set a gravity direction in our fluid simulation, but it's not important now. We are going to create a simple source and drag to create this source. This is the source. We can see this arrow sets the direction of our simulation, where the fluid must go. Now, because we are just going to play with these settings in the FUME FX UI user interface. Okay, so go on the object source and pick object and pick our simple source. Okay, if you have done right, the simple source will appear here. We can see there are the same parameters we saw before in the simple source modify panel, right here in the FUME FX user interface. We can set what kind of things we are going to simulate: if the fuel, the temperature, the smoke, the velocity, what channels will be exported, and stuff like that. Okay, in the general parameters we have the spacing. Spacing is really important. It determines the quality of our flame or our simulation. So less spacing means more quality and means easier simulation. Set spacing of 0.9 to have a high quality simulation, but for our standards we need just 1.3. We can see the grids parameter we can set normally as a usual shape, and the range, so how long will be our simulation. The exporting channels, this is important when we want to link FUME FX to other plugins like Particle Flow or Krakatoa. The output path, which is used by default in the main disk in the folder called FUME FX, and the playback. In the simulation menu, we can set you can see there are some very interesting settings. Like the system, we have the gravity, so the gravity force, the buoyancy, which is how high it will be the flame, the vortice, so it sets the vortice turbulence to our flame, the velocity, and the turbulence. Turbulence is really important because it sets a three-dimensional turbulence which affects our flamer simulation. So I suggest to put X turbulence by 1. We have some turbulence advanced parameters right here. We can block some sides or turbulence, so the X, Y, and Z. We can also set what we are going to simulate: fuel, smoke, fluid mapping. Fluid mapping, just click start simulation, this green symbol, and FUME FX will automatically calculate our simulation. When you do that, you can already see if you are doing what you want, just opening the preview window, and as you can see, we can watch the preview of our flame. Well, it's really horrible right here. It's not actually a flame, it's like a little explosion. We can pause our simulation or save messages to a file. We can also stop. When we stop, our simulation will be stopped and will run until we stop it. So for example, frame 8 we already simulate. Oh, remember, don't use mental ray to render FUME FX. Use another renderer like the default skyline render. So go on the assign render in the render setup and make sure you're using the full scanline renderer or V-Ray or something like that. So you can see we have this horrible flame which evolves. Well, we can do really more with FUME FX. We can create a normal flame, just increasing the buoyancy. We don't care about the turbulence now, and we can set some settings of the smoke and the temperature, but there are more settings in the rendering parameters. So for example, a really important fire, we can set the fire color. We can also set a gradient, checking the key mode. You see, just click, make it, for example, yellow, and here dark red. Oops. Okay. And the smoke, of course. We can increase the opacity or even change the color. And the fuel. Okay, so try to restore the simulation. Okay, we have something new here. Well, we have a more complex flame. If you render, well, this is really much more realistic than before. Okay, So, one last thing. If we go in the output preview, we can already see the, just scrolling the timeline, the preview of our animation. So these are the basic of FUME FX, a really interesting plugin by Seteni Sadi and Afterworks. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something from this tutorial. I'll make some other tutorial on this plugin and about Afterburn. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe our channels to support our activity and to get new tutorials. Thank you for watching.